I'm speaking on behalf of Larbert Baptist Church. I think it's a great honour that has been allowed me to speak to you. I wonder if you've ever heard of Sigmund Freud. Whether you have or not, the way you think, the priorities that you hold, the various points of view, and so on, that you experience are to some extent influenced by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was an Austrian psychiatrist. He was born when my great-grandmother was 16 years of age, and he died when I was 5 years of age. He was one of those people whose opinions and teachings and philosophies have tremendously influenced Western civilization, beginning way back in the 1700s with David Hume and Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and then into the 1800s with Schopenhauer, Nietzsche, Karl Marx, and so on. These are people whose teachings have tremendously influenced the whole of Western civilization. And Sigmund Freud, together with all the others, had no time for religious belief. Sigmund Freud regarded religious belief as poison, intoxicant, childishness to be overcome, neurosis, illusion, patently infantile and foreign to reality. And that was a pretty general view among these people whose teachings have so tremendously influenced Western civilization. Of course, God was utterly rejected from their system. Belief in God, Freud taught, was wishful thinking, and any alleged experience of God was simply wish fulfillment. And as for the need for God, Freud regarded that as a throwback to an infant's needs for parents. Alvin Plantinga, in his huge book, Warranted Christian Belief, states that Freud's arguments for his position were most perfunctory. That's how he describes it. It's almost as if Freud said that belief in God is wishful thinking, and need for God is a throwback to infancy. And having said that, sort of sits back and said, well, there you are. That's all this religious stuff. reduced to ruins. There's nothing more to be said about it. And atheism has become the dominant philosophy in Western civilization. I would go further. I would say atheism is the undermining and the ruination of Western civilization. And so I come back to Freud's 2 points. That belief in God is wishful thinking, and the need for God is a throwback to infancy. And he states that with a most perfunctory argument, as if to suggest that the wish is the evidence of illusion, and the need is evidence of a whole cognitive faculty malfunctioning. Well, if Freud can be satisfied to state that with a most perfunctory argument, I wonder if you would allow me to mention another subject, and with a most perfunctory argument. Beans on toast. Yes, beans on toast. In my almost 87 years of life, although Rosamund makes the most delicious meals, there have been times when my tummy has said to me, "Look here, old boy, you could do with some beans on toast." And I've said, that's a jolly good idea. And then my tummy has said, "Actually, old boy, I think you could do with it because you need it." I say, "That's right. I need beans on toast." So I have a wish for beans on toast. I have a need for beans on toast. Now I know I'm being ridiculous. I know that the reality of God cannot be verified in the laboratory. And I know that beans on toast can be verified in the laboratory. But if Freud can be satisfied with the most perfunctory argument, so can I. You say I have a wish for beans on toast. What does that show? Well, it shows that I'm living on cloud 9. If I wish for it, that's perfectly obvious that there never has been, never will be, any such thing as beans on toast. The wish proves it. If I wish for it, then of course it doesn't exist. It's a sort of primitive mythology. As for my need for beans on toast, well, it's hallucination. It's moonshine. I need to grow up. I need to realise that this is a beans on toast less world I live in. It doesn't exist. And I can't have a real, mature, adult need for something that doesn't exist. I think that to present, as Freud does, this idea that a wish disproves the reality of God, and the need for God is simply an infantile immaturity. And to say that without any convincing argument is a matter of great urgency and seriousness. I read in Psalm 42, verses 1 and 2, these words: "As the deer pants for the water brooks, so my soul pants for you, O God. My soul thirsts for the living God." On Psalm 84 and verse 2, "My soul longs, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God." Or I think of Romans chapter 8, verse 15. "For you did not receive the spirit of bondage again to fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, whereby we cry, Abba, Father." Oh, says Freud, there you are. That's simply a primitive infant's need for its parents. I think the influence of Jesus Christ can compare favourably with that of Sigmund Freud. And there was nothing infantile in Jesus Christ when he prayed, Abba, Father. There is something of profound urgency here. This we read in 1 John chapter 5 verse 14. This is the victory that overcomes the world, our faith. And there is a huge need for God. And God has made us for himself so that there is in the human psyche a colossal hunger for God. I think of the prophet Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 18, when the whole nation of Israel was represented there in a colossal assembly. And Elijah lifted up his voice in prayer to God for his nation. And this is what he prayed. Lord God of Abraham, Isaac and Israel, let it be known this day that you are God in Israel. Hear me, O Lord. Hear me, that this people may know that you are the Lord God, and that you have turned their hearts back to you again. I tell you, this is my heartfelt testimony. The reality of God made known in his beloved Son, Jesus Christ, is the profoundest, sweetest, most glorious reality